1968, San Francisco. The most iconic car chase in cinema history was being filmed. Steve McQueen behind the wheel of a 1968 Ford Mustang GT. Cameras mounted on hoods, roofs, and street corners. The streets of San Francisco transformed into a high-speed battleground. Bullitt would become legendary. The car chase would change action movies forever. But what nobody talks about is what happened on April 19th, 1968, the day the cameras stopped rolling, the day a 34-year-old stunt driver named Bill Carter didn't come home to his wife and 2 sons. And what Steve McQueen did in the 30 years that followed didn't just help one family. It proved that being a legend isn't about what you do on screen. It's about what you do when nobody's watching. This is the story of a widow who lost everything. 2 boys who grew up without a father, and a promise Steve McQueen made that he kept until the day he died. Stay with me. Because what Steve did for this family over 3 decades proves that real heroes don't wear capes. They show up every single year. No cameras, no credit, just quiet loyalty that changes generations. If stories like this move you, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment, telling me where you're watching from right now. Bill Carter met Helen Morrison in 1958. She was a nurse at San Francisco General Hospital. He was a stuntman who'd just broken 3 ribs during a motorcycle jump and refused to take the pain medication because stunt guys tough it out. Helen thought he was stubborn and ridiculous. Bill thought she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. They were married 6 months later. By 1968, they had 2 sons. David, 8 years old, who wanted to be a race car driver just like his dad, and Marcus, 6, who collected toy cars and knew every make and model by sight. Bill worked steadily in Hollywood. Westerns, car movies, fight scenes. He wasn't famous, but he was respected. Professional, careful, safe. He'd been doing stunts for 12 years without a serious injury. Until Bullitt. The Bullitt car chase was ambitious. 10 minutes and 42 seconds of pure adrenaline. Steve McQueen insisted on doing as much of his own driving as possible, but for the dangerous stuff, for the jumps and near misses, they needed professionals. Bill Carter was hired as one of 6 stunt drivers. His specialty was precision work, threading cars through tight spaces at high speeds, making near misses look closer than they actually were. The sequence they were filming on April 19th was called the Russian Hill Jump. A 1968 Dodge Charger would chase McQueen's Mustang up and over one of San Francisco's steepest hills. Both cars would go airborne, land hard, keep racing. They'd practiced the sequence 12 times at slower speeds, checked the landing zone, reinforced the suspension on both vehicles. Bill had done this kind of stunt dozens of times, but something went wrong. The Charger, driven by Bill, went over the hill at exactly the planned speed, went airborne. But the wind that day was stronger than anticipated, just 8 miles per hour stronger. But at that speed, at that angle, 8 miles per hour pushed the car 3 feet to the left of the planned landing zone. 3 feet. That's all it took. The Charger landed on rough pavement instead of the smoothed landing zone. The driver's side suspension collapsed. The car rolled. Once, twice, 3 times. Emergency crews were there in seconds. They got Bill out, rushed him to San Francisco General, Helen's hospital. She was working that day. She heard the commotion in the ER. Heard someone say, "Stuntman from the Bullitt production." She ran to the trauma bay and saw her husband on the table. Bill died 40 minutes later. Massive internal injuries. Nothing they could do. Helen stood in that hospital hallway, still in her scrubs, trying to understand how she was supposed to tell David and Marcus that Daddy wasn't coming home. Ever. Steve McQueen was on set when it happened. He saw the car roll. saw the emergency response, knew immediately it was bad. When they confirmed Bill's death, Steve shut down production for 3 days, not because insurance required it, because Steve refused to keep filming while a man's family grieved. The funeral was held on April 23rd at St. Dominic's Catholic Church in San Francisco. Over 300 people came, stuntmen from across California, crew members, friends, family. The church couldn't hold everyone. Steve McQueen arrived early. No publicist, no assistant, just Steve in a dark suit, sitting quietly in the back row. After the service, people gathered in the church hall. Coffee and sandwiches that nobody really wanted, but everyone pretended to eat because that's what you do at funerals. Helen stood near the refreshment table with David and Marcus. David was trying to be strong for his little brother. Marcus kept asking when Daddy was coming home, not fully understanding yet that never is a real answer. Steve approached them carefully. "Mrs. Carter, I'm Steve McQueen. I'm so deeply sorry for your loss." Helen looked up at him, exhausted, numb. "Thank you for coming, Mr. McQueen." Bill was one of the best, professional, brave, the kind of guy who made everyone around him better at their job. Helen's voice was flat, empty. He loved his work. Steve looked at David and Marcus. David, holding his brother's hand. Marcus, clutching a toy Mustang that his father had given him. "These your boys?" David and Marcus. Steve knelt down so he was eye level with them. "Your dad was a hero. He did things most men could never do, and he did them so people like me could look good on screen." David nodded solemnly. Marcus just stared. Steve stood back up, looked at Helen. "Can I ask you something, privately?" They stepped away from the crowd. Helen's sister took the boys to get cookies. "How are you going to manage?" Steve asked quietly. The question broke something inside Helen. The question everyone dances around at funerals. The question that matters more than condolences. "I don't know," she whispered. "I'm a nurse. I make enough to help, but Bill's income was—" She couldn't finish. "The studio says there's an insurance investigation. Could take months, maybe longer. They're trying to determine if Bill was at fault somehow. He wasn't. I know that. You know that. But insurance companies—" Steve pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back, handed it to Helen. "This is my attorney's number. He's going to call you tomorrow. There's going to be a trust fund set up for David and Marcus, $50,000, for their education, their future, whatever they need." Helen stared at the card. "Mr. McQueen, I can't accept—" "Yes, you can. Bill died making me look like a hero in a movie. The least I can do is make sure his sons have a future. That's too much. It's not enough, but it's a start." Steve paused. "There's one more thing. Every year, on Bill's birthday, I'm going to check in. Call you. Make sure you and the boys are okay. That's a promise." Helen's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do that?" "Because Bill would have done it for my family if our positions were reversed. That's what we do in this business. We take care of our own." If you're finding this valuable, hit that subscribe button right now. Tell me in the comments what you think Steve did over the next 30 years, because the promise he made that day wasn't just words. It was a commitment that would change 2 boys' lives forever. Steve McQueen kept his promise. Every year on December 8th, Bill Carter's birthday, Steve called Helen, sometimes from movie sets, sometimes from racetracks, sometimes from his ranch in Santa Barbara, but he always called. The first year, 1969, Steve called from the set of Le Mans in France. "Helen, it's Steve. How are the boys?" "They're adjusting. David just turned 9. Marcus is 7. They miss their father terribly." "I know. Tell them I'm thinking about them. And Helen, that trust fund is active. use it for whatever they need. Mr. McQueen, you've already done so much. Steve, call me Steve, and I haven't done enough. I'm going to keep calling, every year. That's not negotiable. 1972. Steve called from his home in Malibu. Helen, it's your annual check-in. How's everyone? David's 12 now. He wants to be a stunt driver, just like his father. Steve was quiet for a moment. What do you think about that? I'm terrified, but I also understand. He wants to honor Bill's memory. Tell David I want to talk to him. David got on the phone, nervous, excited. David, your mom says you want to do stunts. Yes, sir. Your dad was the best I ever worked with. If you're going to do this, you're going to do it right. I'm going to connect you with the best stunt coordinators in the business. They're going to teach you, train you, make sure you're safe. Because your father would want you to be better than he was. And safer. David's voice cracked. Thank you, Mr. McQueen. It's Steve, and David, your dad would be proud of you. 1975. Steve called from a hospital in Mexico, where he was being treated for a persistent cough. Helen, it's Steve. Sorry I'm a few days late this year. Steve, are you okay? You sound tired. I'm fine. Doctors are running tests. How's Marcus? Marcus is 13. He wants to go to film school, study cinematography. Good. That's good. Cameras are safer than cars. Steve coughed. Tell him to apply to USC. I know people there. I'll make some calls. Steve, you don't have to. I want to. Bill's sons deserve every opportunity. That's not up for debate. 1978. Steve called from a soundstage where he was filming Tom Horn. Helen, decade anniversary check-in. 10 years since Bill passed. I know. The boys and I visited his grave today. How are they? David's 18. He's working as a stunt driver. Professional now. He's good, Steve. Really good. I know. I've been keeping tabs. He's careful, smart, like his father. And Marcus just got accepted to USC Film School. Full scholarship. That's because he's talented. The scholarship just recognized what was already there. Steve, I don't know how to thank you. The trust fund paid for David's training, helped with Marcus's applications. Without you... Helen, stop. Bill gave his life making my movie better. This is the least I can do, and I'm going to keep calling. Every year, as long as I'm breathing. 1980. The last call Steve McQueen ever made to Helen Carter. He was dying. Mesothelioma. Inoperable. The doctors gave him months. Helen, it's Steve. Helen knew immediately something was wrong. His voice was weak, strained. Steve, are you okay? I'm sick, Helen. Pretty sick. I'm not going to be able to keep calling. Oh, Steve, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. I got to keep my promise for 12 years. That's more than a lot of people get. He coughed. How are the boys? David's 20. He's working on a Tom Cruise movie. Top Gun. Marcus is 18. He's shooting a student film. They're going to be fine, both of them. They have their father's work ethic and your strength. Steve, you've been part of this family for 12 years. You kept us together when we were falling apart. Bill kept you together. I just reminded you that people cared. Will you do me one favor? Helen asked. Anything. When you see Bill again, tell him his boys turned out okay. Steve was quiet for a long moment. I will, I promise. Steve McQueen died on November 7th, 1980. He was 50 years old. David and Helen flew to Santa Barbara for the funeral, a small private ceremony. Steve had requested no publicity. At the service, Steve's widow approached Helen. You're Helen Carter? Yes. Steve talked about you, about Bill, about keeping his promise. He made me promise to tell you something if he died first. What? He said, tell Helen that Bill would be proud of his boys, and tell her I kept my word. But the story doesn't end there. Because 15 years later, something happened that connected everything full circle. Make sure you're subscribed, because what happened in 1995 proves that kindness creates ripples that last for generations. 1995. David Carter was 35 years old, one of the most respected stunt coordinators in Hollywood. He'd worked on dozens of major films, earned a reputation for safety, precision, and excellence. He got a call from a producer. "David, we're making a documentary about Steve McQueen. We heard your father worked on Bullitt. Would you be willing to talk about it?" David agreed. During the interview, David told the story: his father's death, Steve's promise, the 12 years of phone calls, the trust fund, the mentorship, the connection that never broke. The interviewer was stunned. Steve McQueen did all of that and never told anyone? That's who he was. He didn't do it for credit. He did it because it was right. What did Steve McQueen mean to you? David looked at the camera, thought about the question. Steve McQueen saved my family when we had nothing. He kept a promise for 12 years that he didn't have to make. He helped me become the stunt coordinator I am today. But more than that, he showed me what it means to honor someone's memory. My father died on Steve's movie. Steve made sure we didn't lose everything else, too. The documentary aired on the 25th anniversary of Steve's death. The segment about David went viral. Millions of people heard the story for the first time. But what nobody knew until David's son, Bill Carter Jr., revealed it in 2018 was that David had done something with Steve's gift. In 1998, David established the Bill Carter Memorial Scholarship for young stunt performers, funded it with money he'd saved over his career. The scholarship provides training, safety courses, and mentorship for aspiring stunt professionals. To date, the scholarship has helped over 200 young stunt performers get started in the industry, safely, professionally, with respect for the craft. When asked why he created it, David said, "Steve McQueen gave my brother and me a future when our father died. I'm just passing that forward. That's what we do in this business. We take care of our own." Marcus Carter, the younger brother, became a cinematographer, shot over 50 films, won an Emmy for a documentary about Hollywood stunt work. In his Emmy acceptance speech in 2005, Marcus said, "My father died doing what he loved. Steve McQueen made sure my brother and I could pursue what we loved, too. This Emmy belongs to both of them." Helen Carter lived until 2012. She was 86 years old. In her final interview, given to a local San Francisco newspaper, she was asked what she wanted people to know about Steve McQueen. "People remember Steve as the king of cool, the movie star, the rebel, but I remember him as the man who called my house every year for 12 years to make sure 2 boys who lost their father knew someone cared. That's not cool. That's character. And character matters more than fame ever will." The story of Steve McQueen and the Carter family is more than just a story about money or promises. It's about what it means to take responsibility for the people who make your success possible. Bill Carter died making Steve McQueen look like a hero in Bullitt. Steve spent the rest of his life making sure Bill's family knew that Bill was the real hero. And when you watch Bullitt today, when you see that iconic car chase, when you see Steve McQueen driving that Mustang through San Francisco, remember something. Every second of that footage was made possible by stunt drivers like Bill Carter, men who risked everything so stars could shine. Steve McQueen never forgot that. And because he didn't forget, 2 boys grew up to become men who changed their industry, who created opportunities for others, who passed forward the gift they'd been given. That's not just a Hollywood story. That's a lesson in what it means to honor someone's sacrifice, to keep your word when nobody's watching. To understand that being legendary isn't about what you do on camera. It's about what you do when the cameras stop rolling. If this story moved you, subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And the next time you watch a movie, remember the stunt performers who make it possible. Remember Bill Carter. And remember Steve McQueen, the man who proved that real heroes show up. Every single year. No cameras, no credit. Just quiet loyalty that changes everything. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.